All right. Good evening, everyone. This is Charles, Exodus Logistics Learning Center. How are you? Today is Wednesday, the 13th of December, 11 days before my birthday. Wow. Anyway, welcome. How's everybody doing? I get some Q&A jumping off real quick. We haven't been here in a while, but we are coming back into the thick. It's the holiday season. Between Thanksgiving and Christmas, there's, this lag time, slow down, and other things as well, and then pivoting a little bit too. So, but if you stay the course, then everything should be fine. So, how's everyone doing? If you notice, I was looking at my, I'm involved in, or getting involved in, I'm officially registered with the government, with state, federal capabilities to be able to do what's called RFPs, RFQs, and RFIs. Requests for proposals, requests for quotes, and requests for information as it relates to solicitations from the government in different sectors. So I'm looking up different subject matters, couriers, transportation, brokering, things like that. Looking up opportunities not only in my area locally, but throughout the country, because even if you become a prime contractor under those things, you can sub those jobs out. And we're looking at also socioeconomic certifications, SWAM, DBE, MBE, SD, VOSB, which is Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Small Business, WOSB, Women-Owned Small Business. So it's a tedious process to get set up with the government. They ask a lot of questions and they want a lot of information to be current with them, working on the capability statements and things like that, which is the resume, if you will, for the government. So that's what I've been doing, among other things. But how does that relate to transportation? Well, there's a lot of government transportation related type of work in the government sector. The Defense Logistics Agency, picking up freight to and from military installations. So you can kind of pivot your way into that as well. So if one aspect of the industry slows down for you, you can consider moving in another aspect. So, all right. But good evening. Good evening. We have some new people in here this evening. We have some returners, people who are steadily moving along pace. What's up, Jamal?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can now. Yes, sir. How are you?
Hey, how you doing, Mr. Monday?
All right. All right. How's it going? I'm going to do some Q&A starting out, and then we'll get into some detailed training in a second. But any particular questions, anyone?
I have a question for you, Mr. Monday.
Yes, sir.
Okay, on some of the documents that you need back from the carrier once you getting set up and everything before you start trying to book the loads and everything.
Okay.
I know one of them is the certificate of liability insurance or whatever.
So
I was wondering, what do I need to see to spelled out on that form that I need to know that it's legitimate and I can move forward with that document?
great question. So in the back office, under Dispatcher 101, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
You're done, bro.
one of the documents, well, let's go here to forms and documents.
Mm-hmm.
It can be under forms and documents, or it can be under the carrier as well. And we're actually we're integrating to online forms on our website. It's going to progress. So dispatcher agreement, carrier profile, limited power attorney is what you send out, right? But what you need the carriers to return back to you, right, are a copy of their MC authority, right? Their operating authority. So I'm going to break down everything so you'll understand it clearly, not just your insurance question, okay?
Okay.
So they return a copy of the authority to you because you want to make sure that the person that you're going to be dispatching for has the authority to transport freight. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
That they are authorized to move commerce or move freight for interstate commerce to make money, right? So that's number one. That's the first document. You need a copy of theirs. Now, this is a sample. Theirs will be filled out, right, with their information, their service date, meaning when did their authority become active and things like that, and the type of authority that they have. In most cases, the carriers, the truck drivers, the owner operators that you guys are going to be dispatching for are going to be what's called common carriers. Okay. All right. So that's number one. Number two, and the question you asked, certificate of insurance. Okay. So here's a sample of one. What is the purpose of the certificate of insurance, and why does a dispatcher need a copy of the carrier's certificate of insurance returned to them, along with the other documents too? You need a copy of the carrier's MC, the certificate of insurance, because now you want to make sure that they have the proper coverage on their insurance to be able to cover what they're transporting, what they have the authority to transport. That makes sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's go a little bit more detail on the policy, and LaDonna put it up here in the notes. They need to at least have two main types of coverages on the policy. They could have more, they could have more, right? But at least two. One is cargo. They need to carry cargo coverage on their insurance policy in the amount of at least $100,000. Okay, minimum
100,000
100,000 minimum
minimum.
for cargo. Okay,
Okay.
and then the other type on their policy, they need to carry general liability or liability, whatever they call it, liability, and
Okay.
that needs to be at least these days 1 million.
1 million.
Okay. Now, most commercial insurance companies, for the carriers to be approved for insurance, they only require you to have a minimum of 750,000. But if you're a carrier and you are working with brokers who are asking for 1 million liability, then it would stand to reason that they will up that policy from 750 to 1 million. Okay. So that's number two. So the first one was the MC authority, that they need to return to you a copy of theirs. They need to return to you a copy of their certificate of insurance, not their original, a copy of it, right? They also need to return to you a copy of their W-9 for tax purposes, showing that they have a company established, a business with an EIN number associated with the business and the type of business it is. So you need that as a dispatch service as well, because these documents, when you are booking loads or when you begin to move freight or book loads for your drivers through the freight brokers, right? You're going to call a broker on a load that you may have seen on a load board, right? And you call and have that conversation with the broker who posted that load, and they're going to ask you, what's the MC number of the carrier? You're going to give them the MC number of the carrier because you're set up with them with the dispatcher agreement, right? So the broker's going to say, hey, man, your carrier's MC doesn't show in our system as being approved. But hey, that's not a problem. Who do I send our setup packet or our onboarding packet or our carrier packet or our broker carrier agreement to? This is the broker talking to you, the dispatcher. So who do you think the broker should send the necessary setup paperwork to? The
Send it
dispatcher.
to the dispatch.
To the dispatcher. They're going to send it to you. You're going to complete that. and return that completed document, whether it's in paper form or whether it's done online through some kind of web portal, along with copies of what we just discussed, copies of your carrier's MC authority, their insurance, and their W-9 to the broker, because the broker needs to see these documents in order to approve or vet that carrier for approval so that they can give them a load. Okay? Now, another document that you may want your carrier to return to you if they have a factoring company. If your carrier is working with factoring companies, you know what a factoring company is.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then you would need to have the carrier send you a copy of the credit application as well as a copy of a notice of assignment of that factoring company so that you can have to send the credit app and the notice of assignment to the broker, because the credit app is a way of the factoring company running a credit check on that broker to make sure that they are factorable and favorable. Okay. Factoring companies are like almost like banks for the carriers. They give them upfront money and they purchase the invoices or the PODs. So when a carrier delivers a load, they get a copy of a signed BOL, that's a POD. They'll submit that to the factoring company gives them upfront money, and then the factoring company will go after the broker on the back end for the monies. But they've already paid the carrier, let's say up to 90% of what that load paid. Let's say a load paid $3,000. They gave them 90% upfront money, and then when they turn in the POD, they'll go after the broker to get all the money and the rest of the money reserved, and then they'll take out their percentage for factoring. It's almost like, if you remember, Keith, those payday loan spots. You used to go to payday loans and borrow money against your paycheck 2 weeks later. They charge you 1,000%. Well, 999%, but so that's what transportation invoice factoring is. They purchase the invoices, or they purchase the PODs, the proof of deliveries, because the factoring companies are the proof of deliveries is the guarantee that the factoring company needs in order to approve and be able to give that money to the carrier, because they're using that paperwork to go to the broker and say, hey, we have the proof of delivery, release those funds to us that you were going to give to the carrier. We've already paid the carrier up front. So to release the funds that you were going to give to that carrier initially for them delivering the load for you, we stepped in the middle and gave them upfront money, leveraging the POD, the fact that the carrier did their job and delivered. Okay. So the credit application and the notice of assignment is used in that relationship when you're dealing with factoring companies. Okay. Well, your carrier, I should say, dealing with factoring companies. So those are the documents. Go ahead, Jamal.
I got one more. I got another question. Piggyback on top of that, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Monday.
Go ahead,
So,
sir.
so I got a question. Like you didn't vetted the carrier before you solicited to him to try to get a negotiation going with him to make your pitch to get him up under contract or get him up under a carrier profile agreement or whatever. Okay, so you did all that vetting, but when is the correct time, Mr. Money, to ask him about how's he getting paid? I mean, because you have a percentage. I mean, you have a fee that you're going to charge, but I mean, when is the correct time to inquire to him? Does he use factoring or does he pay? I mean, how does he take care of his business?
That's a great point. You
Does
can
that make
ask
sense?
that. You can leverage that question or the answer to that question in your dispatcher agreement. You can put that in the form of in your dispatcher agreement. How are you, or in your carrier profile, that you can say how you're getting paid, or do you have factoring, and do you get paid through your factoring company, or if not, how would you like to get paid? Well, if a carrier doesn't have factoring themselves, they're going to get paid typically through either a broker that you booked the load for with them, or a direct customer if they got it directly from the customer, direct from the shipper. So there's three ways carriers get paid: direct shipper, broker, or factoring company. If you are
Okay.
talking about factoring, you can answer that question by putting it in your contract, put it in your paperwork, put it in your dispatcher agreement or your carrier profile when you're asking them all other questions, like how much do you want to get cents per mile? Well, you can put that question. Let's go there real quick. You can put that question in the carrier profile right? Here in the carrier profile, because you're getting feedback from them already. So you can leverage that down here when you're asking them, well, because you're already asking them, well, how much do you want to make if I was to book loads for you as a dispatcher, cents per mile? How much do you want to how much do you want to get make per mile? They'll say $2 a mile, $3 a mile. You could put the next question right there somewhere and say, hey, do you work with a factory company? How do you want to get paid, or how do you get paid? Do you use factoring? Yes or no? What's the name of the factory company? Foley's, TBS, Interstate Capital, OTR, whoever they are, right? So
Okay. See, because my question, I was asking you that because I know at some time, sooner or later, there's got to be something figured out about how I do my invoice to them to get my money.
you typically invoice, in most cases, you typically invoice the carrier after they deliver and while they're waiting to get paid either through their factory or the broker or the direct shipper, one of the three ways. You're going to always invoice them after they finish the job, unless they
Okay.
specifically tell you. And I've had cases where carriers told me once I booked the load for them and they actually picked the load up from the shipper, they said, man, you might as well go ahead and invoice me so I can pay you because I know I'm going to deliver the load and I know I'm going to get paid. So I'll go ahead and pay you as well. That's a great carrier to have as opposed to one that you have to chase down for your money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but yes, you typically it's usually after the carrier delivered, and it says it in the dispatcher agreement. Remember, so
Mm-hmm.
in the dispatcher agreement, right here on the second page, I believe, right here. So as loads, freight, cargo are picked up by the carrier, delivered by the carrier, and either the carrier trucking company is paid first,
Mm-hmm.
an amount equal to the above stated percentage or flat rate, depending on how you charge them. Do you charge them a percentage or do you charge them a flat fee? Will be payable to, and then what goes here is your dispatch company name. So
Okay.
after they pick up the load and deliver it and things like that, then you send your invoice
Yes, sir.
for
Yes,
your
sir. Okay.
service. Okay.
Okay. So when you do your when you vet your carriers and everything before you make your pitch to try to get them on board with your company, do you offer a factoring? I mean, do you ask them? Are they? I mean, is that part of your spiel when you're going through the initial recruiting or whatever you want to call it about the factoring, or there's something that's a service that you offer,
You
or
don't,
is it just
so
something that you're speaking on?
the only way a dispatch service can offer factoring if, because factoring companies, the only clients of factoring companies are motor carriers and freight brokers, not dispatchers. But
Okay.
dispatchers can have some type of what's called an affiliate marketing type of relationship with them where if they go through a factoring company with an affiliate link and they give that to the carrier and the carrier gets on board and approved by that factoring company that the dispatcher brought to them through an affiliate,
Mm-hmm.
then the factoring company will approve the carrier. Let's say they approve that carrier that you brought to them, and they'll give you a kickback for bringing them business, right? But you're not in a contractual relationship with a factoring company as a dispatch service because you're not a client of them. Their only clients are motor carriers and freight brokers, but you can have an affiliate relationship with them by
Okay.
bringing them business and getting a kickback.
Okay.
And as an added service, some factoring companies also, in addition to that, they may offer to pay you for bringing them that carrier and they approve them this at the same time that they pay the carrier. So that'll kind of remove or relieve the worry of the dispatcher of worrying about if their carrier is going to pay them. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If you brought a carrier to a factory company through an affiliate relationship, and the factory company offers that as a service, say, hey man, when we pay this carrier that you brought to us, we're going to pay you at the same time too as an added service because that's what we do, right? So you can kind of
Mm-hmm.
leverage that if you will, right?
Okay.
That's the only way in. You're not a client of a factory company as a dispatch service. That'll never happen.
Okay.
Their clients are only truck drivers, owner operators, and the brokers. That's who they deal with. Okay. All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then vetting carriers before you even call them to even offer your dispatch services to them. One of the sites you can use, of course, is the Safer website, right? The company snapshot on the FMCSA Safer, this right here, where you may have done some research, looked up carriers on some kind of load board, got a list of numbers, phone numbers, found an MC number or a name of a carrier, and you looked them up. You looked their DOT or their MC up, and you discovered that they were either not active or they were part of a brokerage that you couldn't work with them because they're already part of a brokerage. So that'll be kind of like double brokering, if you will. You can't do that. So there's several ways to vet them, and then talking to them. Like, hey man, let's say you went to the FMCSA's website and the Safer or the registry. I think the registry is still not working back there a little bit. But if you looked up newly applied owner operators who are looking to get their authorities, you can call them and say, hey man, I know you just applied for an authority, but once you get it, will you be looking for a dispatcher? And then that's a yes or no question. Then you start asking them preliminary questions, almost like a profile, like what type of equipment type do you have? Where do you want to run in the country? Where do you not want to run? What is your cents per mile? What are your weight limits? How much do you want to haul? How long do you want to be out? How soon do you want to be back? Things like that. You just asking them verbally at the same time, if it were me, taking notes, putting that stuff down, because basically you're performing a profile. You're profiling them, right? So, and that gives you great practice because you're killing two birds with one stone. You're talking on the phone and you're doing a profile. Okay. Whether you know it or not, but yes. Right. So, and then once you get a good carrier, or in your opinion, a good carrier, then you can start looking for loads for them according to the profile. Because the profile is the carrier's way of telling you what they want, how they want to run, how much cents per mile they want, and things like that. So, and we often recommend the three major equipment types. Remember what those are?
Yes, sir. The flatbed, the reefer, and the 48-foot dry van. Dry van is a dry
53,
van.
53-foot dry van. It could be 48 sometimes, but most cases you'll do better with an extra 5 feet. So 53 feet.
53. Okay.
53 feet dry vans and reefers, and then 48 or 53-foot flatbeds.
Okay.
So, yep. And Adonna just put that in the chat notes for you guys. So, but did that help you as far as the documents?
Absolutely. Yeah, man, you done gave me such great wealth of resources back here in your back office, man. Like you got some of it in PDF style, you got some of it in Word style where I can actually make it my own. I really appreciate you, man. I'm just really getting tapped in with you on a regular. But man, I'm really, really appreciative of everything that you're showing, man, that you're sharing with me.
No problem. Take your time. Take your time with it. Go at your pace. You got, 90 days, but go at your pace. You shouldn't have to feel that you need to rush through it, right? But as you go through each section, and I'm trying to customize the website even further, but as you go through each section, you want to apply what you learned in that section towards what you need to know as a dispatch service, right? That's the goal, right? So like in module 1, the first thing you need to do is get your business set up. And this is for all the new, also, not just Jamal, but all the new dispatchers who've joined tonight for the first time. One of the first things you want to do as a dispatch service is make sure that your company is in place, established, right? You LLC, your business, right? Kind of a prerequisite, a pre-requirement. You want to have your business in place. Now, can you have your business not in place while you learn? Of course you can. While you can kill two birds with one stone. While you're training yourself, you can be getting your business up and running. So by the time your business is active, your LLC, you get your EIN and things like that, you'll be well into your training. Okay, that's
Mhm.
number one. Number two, can you start booking loads for a carrier without your business being in place? Technically, no. Has people done it before? Of course, I've done it. I did it before a couple of times, about 6, 7 years ago. I booked loads for carriers without having my business completely set up. But when the business did become active, the revenue that I generated from those transactions, I rolled into the business for tax purposes because I still wanted to stay legit. Okay. But technically, you want to make sure that when you start to, after you get a carrier and you start finding loads for them and booking loads for them with brokers, you want to make sure that you are an active company because now you are contractually bound between you and that carrier, that dispatcher agreement. Okay. So this
Yeah,
is the
that
question.
answers a lot of my questions, Mr. Monday. That does. So I have my LLC, I have my EIN number. I haven't set up the business account yet, but I do have those two things in place. I just haven't set them up. I wanted to ask you something else concerning that because on your payment plan, do you have a payment processor attached to the account, or how do you do that?
So you're saying between you and the carrier as far as paying you.
Yes, sir.
But when you so
How,
when
how,
you invoice the carrier,
mhm.
when you get to a place where you're going to invoice the carrier, prior to invoicing the carrier, you want to make sure you're invoicing them to an account that's a business account that you have set up, whether it's
Okay,
through a bank or through a credit union. I recommend a credit union because they're a little bit easier. The rates, the interest is a little bit better. It's just a better relation for me, my experience. Now, some people may have
yes,
a
sir.
poor experience with banks, but that's fine. I
Uh-huh.
I've had a good experience in all the time that I've been doing this with credit unions. Okay.
Okay,
But at any rate, you want to have a business account linked to the software that you're going to be using to invoice the carriers who are business people. You're a business invoicing another business. So when they pay
uh-huh.
you, the funds should go through the invoice to an account that's a business account that's
Yeah.
tied to your dispatch service. Okay.
Okay,
So
okay.
I used back then either PayPal or Square, and I invoiced them by sending from my PayPal or Square account the email that was associated with that. I created the invoice and sent it through the email for that account to the email of the carriers. So when they opened up the email, it had a pay now button. They clicked it. If they had a PayPal or Square account, they either chose to pay through PayPal or Square, or
Mhm.
in those PayPal and Square accounts, they also offer the option to pay with a credit or debit card. So,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
So the process is not hard. You just got to make sure you set it up correctly.
okay,
You want to
okay.
make sure that you link your invoicing through your business account so that you can get so the funds flow to your business. And that's the best way to
Yes,
keep
sir.
track. That's called a digital footprint. You want to keep a digital footprint on all transactions that you do as a company. Okay.
Yes,
Because you're going to be monitored for that tax purposes and things like that. They want to make sure that you do it correctly and they want to know how to properly tax you based off of the gross revenue that you bring in, your AGI. So
sir.
So yeah, and every business does this either on a larger scale. We're doing it on a smaller scale because we're just starting the companies, our dispatch services. But
Yes.
the technique is the same for everyone, whether you're a Fortune 500 company or you're small like us. The process is the same. Okay, so just make sure, yeah, just when you set up business accounts, most banks or credit unions are going to ask for proof that you are who you say you are, the business, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Well, what's the proof? You have a business license, you have articles of organization,
Uh-huh.
whatever your state sent you to tell you that you are an official business, take that
Hmm.
to the bank to open up
Okay,
the business account.
okay.
Some banks or credit unions will tell you what they require. That's even better. That way you know when you go to the banks
Okay.
or the credit unions what they require. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, all right. Any other questions? You good, Jamal?
Yes, sir. That was the safer website that you were showing me just a while ago.
Yes, sir. And it's in the portal. So
Yes, sir.
right here in the
Uh-huh.
portal, under tools and resources,
Uh-huh.
where it says trendline/safer. You click that, it'll anchor down to the safer website.
Right.
And
Uh-huh.
there is a video, safer navigation video, showing you how to navigate that website
Okay.
in video format, and an FMCSA registered video showing you how to navigate safer website to get to the FMCSA register.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine.
So the FMCSA stands for Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Okay.
Okay.
So everything, we try to keep things basic for you guys to get your foundational process down first. And then you take that information and you scale and expand from there.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Some of the new
Hey,
type of want to chat.
hey, Charles, it's LaDonna.
Hey,
Hey, everyone. Keith had a question that was an awesome question. He was just making sure to see if he wanted to go past the 90 days, how would that work of being enrolled into Exodus Logistics?
great question, Keith. I think I spoke to Keith too in email, or my wife too. So in this program, in this training program tonight, when you enroll, your 90 days begin not from the date that you enroll, but technically from the date that you get access to the portal. Okay, because that's more fair. Because you may enroll and then don't access the portal maybe a few days later, maybe a week later. So that's when your clock starts. Your clock starts when you access the portal. When you get approved for access. At any rate, though, 1 week prior to that coming to an end, my wife sends out emails to she keeps track of everyone on the spreadsheet whose 90 days is about to come up within a week. And she'll send out an email asking, hey, your 90 days is getting ready to come up to an end. Do you want to continue, yes or no? Some say yes, some say no. If you say yes, she then will start the process of invoicing you past 90 days according to our invoicing requirements, whatever that amount is. I think it's $29.99 a month or something like that. And it's month to month. After the 90 days, it's monthly for however long you want. There's no limit on that. You can cancel anytime. You can do it for the next 3 months. You can do it for as long as you pay $29.99 or whatever that amount is. I'm thinking it's $29.99. So that's how that works. A week prior. And I think Keith paid for like a few months ahead, if I'm not mistaken, like 3 months out. And I think my wife had notated that in the spreadsheet. So she monitors that stuff very well. So she'll keep an eye on that. But that's generally how it works. A week prior to a person's 90 days becoming close to expiring, you will receive an email from the info@exodusdispatchingandtraining.com asking, do you want to continue or not? And then taking it from there. So yeah, okay. So Keith said yes. So yes. So yes, my wife, she's good at reaching out to people, sending emails. So, okay. All the new people I see here, type of one in the chat if you just enrolled. And a 2 if you're a guest. We have like 17. So if you just, I saw someone, if you just enrolled. Anthony McLean just enrolled Elijah, and then Darian Cox. Welcome to the new. So specifically for you, well, I want to make sure, first of all, if you have questions about navigating the site, generally working your way around where to go and what to do and things like that, so you can get acclimated to the actual portal. Do you have questions about that, number one? And then number two, if you have any general questions, dispatching, because I want to make sure that you have a good experience with this process. So for those new individuals and even the guests, Jamesia, if I'm pronouncing that correct, Jamesia Carr, you're a guest. Oh no, guests are LaDonna put type 1 if you're a guest. So Justin Rowe, Sasha, I recognize that name, Sasha Simpson, Justin Rowe. I think Sasha someone was in our freight broker training last night, and then I told them they could stay in the dispatching will be tomorrow. Was that you, Sasha? Okay. Elijah, got your hand raised. Go ahead.
How you doing, sir?
How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm pretty good in regards to the to answer your question. I'm okay navigating.
Okay.
So I'm okay with that. But I do have a question in regards to this coming year for LLCs. Um, and have you spoke about that in regards? Because I'm not too sure. I'm doing the research now, but into the BOI for all LLCs moving forward. I don't know if you heard of that.
Yes, I have, and I spoke to my CPA about it. The forms have not come out for that yet, and I think you have to register like once a year because they're trying to remove fraud. So what Elijah is speaking about, January 1st, 2024, the government is coming out with what's called BO, beneficial ownership information reporting, because a lot of companies, there's a lot of scams going on out here online, and the government wants to make sure that people are legitimate companies, legitimate businesses, particularly the smaller LLCs with, I think it's 20 or less employees, I believe. The credentials are, you have to report who you are, and you have to do it. You have to file it within a certain amount of time. I think it's once a year, I believe. But my CPA is looking into it. Oh yeah, disclaimer: I am not a tax attorney. Please consult your tax professional for any legal advice. Thank you, LaDonna. That's the disclaimer. I'm glad I said it on the recording. But I spoke to my CPA, and he's saying that yes, he's aware of it, and we'll take care of it. But the actual documents have not even come out yet to prepare for that. But yes, so let's look it up on the internet so you can see, and I'll give you guys a link of what Elijah is speaking about, right? Beneficial ownership report, BOI, right here. And David just put the link here as well. So he did it already. So HTTPS right there. So the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. That's what FinCEN stands for. Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. And they're coming out with here. Starting January 1st, many companies, not all, many companies will be required to report information to the U.S. government about who ultimately owns and controls them. And then how do you file and things like that. The how do you file part, my tax guy said the documents haven't come out yet. Okay? But they are. So read this, guys, because it could potentially affect you. So read it so you'll be, this is great, so you'll be ahead of the game. You'll be ahead of the game and you'll have the information that you need. Okay?
Right.
So
If I may.
we copy this and paste it for you guys here. I think David did it already, but put a hash and add it. So yeah, read into that. And I think there's a fine for it if you don't comply as far as doing it correctly, and they find out that you're not a. So the purpose of it is to eliminate fraudulent and scam. Yes, and that's $500 a day, guys, not $500 a year or whatever. That's a day. David put the number up there, 500. So David must have read the article. But yes, they're trying to remove a lot of scammers and people who are not legitimate companies, legitimate businesses. If you're doing it the correct way, I've always had this saying: if you do things the right way, you have nothing to worry about. Okay, so it takes more energy to do bad things, criminal things, scam things, than it does to do the right thing. It's easy to do the right thing because your intentions are pure, right? So just be mindful of it and just be aware and be up on it. If you're a legitimate business, an LLC, then you should be fine. You should prove that you're an LLC. You got your W-9, you got your EIN number, you got your articles of organizations, because I'm pretty sure they're going to ask to upload files and documents and things like that to prove, right? And I believe it's just if you get caught up on this, I think it's a one-time thing once a year, proving that you're a company. I don't think you have to do it like once every month or every quarter or things like that. I think it's a once, because they're not gonna expect a business to be only operating every quarter or 6 months. They expect you to be operating your business for a long period of time. So I think the requirement is just once a year. I'm not sure on that. I need to verify that with my CPA, but if you've read the articles, you can kind of update me on that, the frequency of the actual reporting. Okay, so, but the beneficial ownership information. Okay, yeah, just read up on it and just be aware. So things come along for business people that sometimes you have to adjust to certain things because of the trends in our society. We've gotten into a place in our society where a lot of people are doing malicious, criminal, scam type of things online. You may have been a victim of it. Somebody may have scammed you online. You may have bought something with a credit card, clicked on a link, and it was a virus or whatever, right? You may have been a victim. You may not even know it or not. So this is the government, one way, I guess, attempt to kind of curb this, right? So me personally, I welcome it. I want to separate the real from the fake. So, okay. So just be aware of it. Okay, next is a question, Darian Cox, if I'm mispronouncing your name, please correct me.
Yeah, no, it's Darian, so you're good.
Darian, okay. How you doing?
Doing well, sir. Doing well, doing well. Yeah. I think I've purchased the course a couple of weeks ago, but uh, I've already, I'm up and running. My business is set up. My LLC is done. All that stuff is done. Um, I'm mainly interested. My main focus now is getting my first carrier. So mainly, I saw. So it's just trying to pick your brains and say, okay, what are some of the best? I saw stuff in the course on how to get carriers, and I started doing that. I started posting on Facebook. I haven't gone to the truck stop yet, but is there any one thing or two things in particular to be doing, or is just you just do all of those things?
I would do as many as possible. The more you do, the more likely you increase your chances of getting the carrier. But let me ask you some preliminary questions first.
Mhm.
Where are you located?
I'm in Georgia.
Okay. Are you near the Atlanta area, Fulton County area, or are you
I'm about 30 minutes north of Atlanta, so I can get to Fulton County in 20
okay?
minutes, 25 minutes. Yeah.
So you're in the southeast region. So the reason I ask that because you can target specific drivers in specific areas in the country. So in the southeast, you're going to see a lot of flatbeds. You're going to see some dry vans down there. You may see some reefers coming in and out of Florida. Okay, on
Hmm.
your major interstates, your 85s, your 95s, your 10s.
Yep.
So
Yep.
so you would decide those would be the types of carriers you would target. Okay, we of course we advise the three major equipment types, of course, dry
Yep.
flatbeds, because it's easier for you to come into the industry with those equipment types. I mean, that's just a fact, you know.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, social media, like you said, Facebook. I'm gonna mute you because there's some background noise. So I'll just okay. So, um, Facebook groups, owner operator groups, trucking groups, uh, join them and then kind of be like a fly on the wall before you actually speak. Then you might put some fillers out, see what they're saying, what they're talking about. You may come across a conversation one day that someone's having difficulty finding loads or whatever. And then you reach out to that person specifically. Also, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a good platform. I just purchased a version of LinkedIn that's called Sales Navigator. It costs an extra $99 a month, but it gives you the opportunity to drill down and go after people specifically in the fields that you're looking for them in. Trucking, transportation, logistics, shipping, manufacturing, things like that. Truck stops, of course, because you're right in person with them. You're making eye contact. If I'm a driver, you pull up to me at a truck stop, I'm fueling up my truck, you strike a conversation up with me. It's good to have your paperwork with you, your dispatcher agreement, carrier profile, limited power of attorney, maybe some little trinkets, some little snacks, a gift, right? It's always good to give somebody something without expecting anything in return, right? Start that conversation, ask them, you know, if you go to a truck stop, I would ask them, um, You're looking particularly for the type of truck drivers who are what's called owner operators. You're not looking for truck drivers who are company drivers. Company drivers they work for the company, so they are dispatched already internally within the company, right? Owner operators, if they don't work, they don't eat. They got to find their own freight. They own the truck and they operate it. They have what's called an operating authority. So they need to work to make their money. They have truck payments, fuel, insurance. They have bills to pay in order to stay afloat to run their trucking company. Otherwise, they're going to go under, right? So those are the ones you would target, the owner operators, and offer yourself and your service, your company, as a service to them, as a value add, to be able to assist them. Ask the type of questions that will lead them to ask you, well, what do you do? You know, you're offering to offer me these services. Well, you're owner operator. I understand you have bills you have to pay. I'm a person that can be put in place by you, or we can join together forces where I can help you keep your company running. What do you normally net? What do you normally gross per week right now? You know, I have the ability to get you match that or exceed it. They'll say, well, this is a dry van carrier outside of Tifton, Georgia, right? Right outside of coming back from Florida, heading north on 95, and they get into Tifton. There's all these industrial commercial spots and then truck stops, right? So they'll say, yeah, I'm a dry van. I usually gross about, right now the market is down. I usually gross about, I don't know, 6,500, 7,000. Can you do better than that? Can you match it at least and offer me some additional services? Sure. Right? What are you going to say? No? You've never done it before, right? Now, you're not going to lie to them, but at least let's say, okay, I can't say I can match it right now because we just started to work, but I can promise you that I'll try my best. Something like that. Give them a political answer. What the politicians would say, right? So, and say, if you're matching 6,500, 7,000, okay, are you OTR? Are you over the road, Mr. Truck Driver? In other words, do you average between 2,500 to 3,000 miles a week? Yes, and more, right? So, okay, let's say you do 3,000 miles a week. At $2 a mile, that's $6,000 right there. If I can get you more, I'm trying to get you to 6,500, 7,000. So if I get you to 250, if I get you to $3 a mile every load on average, that's 9,000 a week. We're just doing simple math at this point, right? So now the job for you and the challenge for you, if you put that out there, is to average them $3 a mile loads. In this industry, that's going to be a challenge because the rates are down. So you want to be careful of how you say you want to provide that service. You want to be as close to realistic as possible. They got a dry van, let's say 225 to 250 a mile. So if you do a calculator, and I'm pulling one up now, I guess I can share my screen. If they do 3,000 miles a week and you want to give them 250 a mile, okay, that's 7,500. You just matched or exceeded what they normally do themselves, okay? But the challenge for you is to meet that 250 a mile threshold on average, depending on how many loads they run, where they go, and things like that. You can do this in one load. One big load, if you can find a good load, depends on how far they want to drive. Let's say coming out of Georgia, going over to California somewhere. Sometimes loads going from east to west pays more than going from west to east, or vice versa, depending on the season, the market, the equipment type, and the commodity. These are things you're going to learn over time as a dispatcher. Sometimes loads going from north to south may pay more than going from south to north in the particular season, the time, the commodity, and the equipment type. So you will discover that if I were you, I would take notes over time to kind of fill that stuff out. And then once you pick up on the patterns, then you concentrate on certain areas that can potentially keep your carrier making more money in that particular direction. But I'll be real with you. You're going to make mistakes starting out. That's a good thing though, because why? You learn from them. Because now it helps you understand where you should go and how you should run, right? So as a dispatcher, you never want to send your carrier to areas where they can't get out of for their equipment type in a specific area. The purpose of this platform and my job as an instructor is to kind of help you along with that by telling you certain things to kind of avoid that. Like, for example, the 3 major equipment types: dry van, flatbed, and reefer, right? The best areas of the country to run them in other words, that has a high frequency of inbound and outbound freight, is in the Midwestern areas, the Midwest zones, right? A zone, what we call a zone, contains a certain number of states. The Midwest zone is the #1 zone: Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Illinois, things of that nature. Why? Because it can, for the 3 major equipment types. Why? Because it contains, again, a high volume of inbound and outbound loads. So if you keep your carriers running into and out of those areas, you should do fine. Zone #2, best zone, is the Southeast. Georgia, sometimes with the exception of Florida, but we'll include Florida. Georgia, Florida, Virginia, North and South Carolina, those areas, right? That's the Southeast area. And then the 3rd zone is the Southwest, particularly the state of Texas, because Texas is huge. You can eat alone in Texas as a dispatcher moving your carrier all throughout Texas. DFW, Houston, Odessa, Midland, Laredo, back up and back and forth, Austin, San Antonio, all these different major cities in the state of Texas, okay? So over time, over time, you'll pick up on a pattern of which way to go and how to run it, okay? So, but hopefully that helped you, sir. Yes, zones, the 3 major zones, Adonna, yes. So, the Midwest zone, #1, Southeast, #2, and Southwest, okay? Those are zones. Okay, Keith asked, what do I do if I get a carrier, but I make mistakes and he decides he doesn't want me to dispatch him for him anymore? Nothing you can do. You have to move on, Keith. If you make a mistake and he decides he doesn't, so if you have a carrier that you made such a mistake that he decides to move on from you, you have to take that loss, because you either did something that put him in a situation where he lost money, or you sent him to an area where he couldn't get out of. He was sitting there for days. The longer a carrier sits, the more money they lose, up to $1,000 a day. So let's say you got a dry van carrier coming out of Georgia and you found a load that paid $3,200 coming out of Georgia, but it's going to Montana. Okay, man, that's a good load. Yeah, but when you get to Montana, are you going to be able to find something coming out of there? So part of the decision of booking loads for the carriers is keeping them running consistently and keeping them out of areas that they're going to have a hard time getting out of, or what's called reloading or backhauls, okay? You want to get them out of the areas, running up. So if they run 3,200 running from Georgia to Montana, 3,200, they take that load, you book it for them, but they got to sit there for a few days to get a load out of there, or dead head to another state to find some freight. At 3,200, just balance itself out in fuel costs and things like that, because they got to sit there. They basically just work, they just paid for fuel, essentially, right? And their bottom line is not as profitable as it should have been if you would have found them a load coming out of there. Now, I would have ran them from Georgia to the Midwest somewhere and out of there. So, okay. Jamal. Unmute yourself. You did it before. I don't know what I don't know what on your computer, but you unmuted yourself. I'm asking you to unmute it on the button on my side. There you go.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So with all the tools and resources you have in your back office, like you were just talking about, you don't want to send somebody somewhere and then they got to sit. Do you have something in some of your tools and resources that you can look at the map and see which states have a lot of traffic coming in and going out with needing loads or needing stuff pulled away or brought to them?
You're asking the great questions right now. You are asking a great question. So there's certain load boards, there's certain areas you can send, so I'm gonna look at one resource. Now this load board, 123 load board, is not in our platform that we're sharing our logins with you, but it's in there as a promotion that you can sign up for it for free for the 30 days and then pay for a subscription yourself without being required to have an MC number. That's the reason for this one, right? But it's a resource nonetheless. It's a load board. It's called 123. And when you first log in, you come here to the dashboard, okay? Now, under loads, there is something called load availability, okay? And what it does, it shows you in map form right here, or in a density list in alphabetical order by the states, the frequency of the loads per state. So let's go back to the map because most people are visual, right? So, so look at the map, right? And let me enlarge it a little bit. If I can. Right there, right? So it's color coded, right?
Okay.
Red means it's like few, like there's a legend down here, so there's a little legend. So red means low, which means lows are limited, they're small, right? The orange or amber color means that they're medium lows, availability slightly limited. And then green is where all the lows are, a bunch of lows, prevalent. So high, in other words, remember a high volume of inbound and outbound freight, right? So knowing this, like here, and this is across the major equipment types, plus some other ones, but particularly the major equipment types, the dry vans, the flatbeds, and the reefers, right? So if you see these analytical tools, why not put them to use, right? All the green states, if I had a dry van or flatbed or reefer carrier, I'm only running them in these green colored states, right? Now, I may take a chance to go over here to Utah and California and Washington State, but I'd probably want as a dispatcher because remember, going this way, you got to go through the Rocky Mountains. Have you ever driven through the Rocky Mountains?
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough.
It's rough. It's rough, right? Rough rider, right? So I would keep them on flat land. Remember I said the Midwest zone, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Illinois, Wisconsin. That's the Midwest zone. And then the Southeast, Virginia, North and South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, and then over here in the Southwest, Texas. So it shows it. Look, if you hover your mouse over one of the green states, for example, Texas, it comes up with how many inbound loads and how many outbound loads. The outbound loads means loads coming out of Texas, 998. Loads going inbound, 2,575. You only need one. One at a time, right? You're booking a load one at a time for your guy. He can't be in two places at one time. He's only one person, right? And then also intrastate. Intrastate, the one in the middle says intrastate. What that means is loads running inside of the state of Texas only, intrastate, within the boundaries of the state of Texas. Okay. Intrastate in Ohio, 108, within the boundaries of the state of Ohio. Loads only running back and forth in Ohio, Cleveland to Cincinnati, or Toledo to Springfield, or whatever. Right, within the state itself, intrastate. Out Ohio, let's use Ohio for example. Outbound, 1,178 loads going out of Ohio, 1,052 or 1,052 coming into Ohio. So you can essentially say, okay, let's go with Darian, Georgia, right? He's in Georgia. I'm gonna get a load coming out of Georgia. We'll say outbound. I can find a load. There's 1,172 going out of Georgia. There is 1,052 coming into Ohio. So I can go to Georgia to Ohio, Ohio over to Texas, Texas back to Georgia, Georgia back to Ohio. I'm running all green states for my equipment type. It can't get no clearer than that, right? You just got to put all the, so what this is, guys, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You got all the pieces. You got the resources, you got the templates, the dispatcher agreement, You got ways of getting the carrier. You got to put the puzzle together.
Yes.
Like a jigsaw puzzle. I'm giving you the pieces, put it together, right? And I'm helping you. Hey man, this piece don't go here. You might want to put this piece there. That one goes over there. That's a border piece. I mean, you know how you put a jigsaw puzzle together, right? That's a corner.
Mhm.
You want to put that there. This piece goes right here. That makes more sense for that to go there. That's my job. I'm the helper to put the pieces together on the jigsaw puzzle. Okay. You got all the pieces, this back office, all the resources back here, all the pieces to the
Yes.
puzzle. Okay.
Yeah. Mm.
All you gotta do
That's
is
a great tool right there.
yeah, and you can change it. So you have the map version, and then you have the density version where it shows an alphabetical order of the states. Right? You can just scroll down alphabetical order. So Mr. Cox said he was in Georgia, right here. Georgia. So let's open it up. Let's say Georgia. Okay. We want a load coming out of Georgia, right? So we'll click this. If we click it, it's going to highlight all the loads, outbound, intrastate, and inbound loads, Georgia. You got Mr. Cox has got a carrier and he's in Georgia. Okay, I need to find a load coming out of Georgia. Or I need to find loads that just run only within Georgia, Georgia to Georgia, right here. You can select intrastate. Or you need a load coming into Georgia, inbound. You hit the inbound link and it shows you loads coming from elsewhere into Georgia. Guys, how simple can this get? You know what I'm saying? So here's the outbound, but Mr. Cox had a guy coming out. He wants to get out of Georgia. Depending on where he's at, and you see the loads that are available, he may not be close to these loads, but at least you have some starting points to see loads coming out of Georgia going to other drop-off points. They're all starting out of pickup. The pickup locations are where loads are coming out of. Another name for the pickup location is the shipper. Another name for the drop-off or the delivery location is the receiver, right? Pick up from the consignor, deliver to the consignee, right? You're going to see that on quizzes and throughout the course, but at some point, right? And then you can utilize this tool, this load board, and see what the rates are paying. You can see the rates. Some rates are not listed by the brokers, others are. So I can click this rate here and put it in order of the ones that are posted numerically from highest to lowest. So if I click rate, boom, it's going to put it to the top. Look at that. And these are only outbound. You can go to intrastate and do the same thing, put it in order. You can go to outbound, do the same thing. So you can manipulate the tool to your desire, to what you want to do. You see? So look at this one, 6,300. What is that? But see, that's going outbound. You see? Well, I'm sorry, inbound is coming from Washington State coming into Georgia. So going from the West Coast, the Pacific Northwest, remember I said directional dispatching, some loads going from east to west pays more from west to east and north to south, south to north. You will pick up on it as you see the numbers. And you'll say, man, that's a trend. Let me keep an eye on that. So I'll know where to send my carrier next time. If he happens to be in a certain area, if my carrier happens to be up in near Washington State, maybe over in Northern California somewhere, I could have him go up to Washington State, snatch up a load and send him back home to Georgia for 6,300. You see what I'm saying? So it's different things. I'm gonna go back over here to the outbound and we got some loads coming out. So look, it doesn't pay as much going from east to west. Going from Georgia to Colorado pays almost half as it was going from west to east, going from the west to the east. So we just picked up on that. You see? So if you happen to get a driver out west, you can best believe you're going to find something coming back east for a higher amount. So look at the trend, look at the analytics, make note of that so you'll be able to figure out where to send your driver for their equipment type and how to get them into and out of areas in the future. Okay. Was that helpful, Mr. Cox?
Very, very helpful. Very, very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
And now, as you look at loads, let's look at a load real quick. Let's look at an outbound load, something going from, and let's put the drop off in some orders here, alphabetical order, Alberta, Alabama. See, these are small paying loads going from east. This is going to Canada. Look at that. It's going into Canada. It doesn't have a rate, but it does have a rate check. In other words, the rate check is what the market pays on average. So this says that from Columbus, Georgia to Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, 2,529 miles, the average rate that the market is paying to the truck is $4,246, which is $1.68 a mile. Okay. The broker didn't post theirs, but I'm asking for more than this. I'm going to try to at least get $2 a mile. I'm going into Canada. I'm crossing into another international country, right?
Yes, sir.
The United States borders, it borders two international countries, Canada to the north and Mexico to the south. Okay. So, all right. So if you look at a specific load, just to get the details and understand how that works, here's one that's paying $4.74 a mile. There's no way, right? There must be multiple stops, but it requires a step deck, which is a variation of a flatbed, and is overweight. That's why 55,000 pounds. So it needs a larger equipment type to hold that, like a maxi. A maxi trailer holds up to 65,000 pounds, so that can handle that. This can go on a step deck, so they're gonna need, it's overweight, so they're gonna need either flags, an escort, pilot cars, and things like that. Okay, we can open it up and get the details of it, the load details, where it can show what it is. Even the route, Georgia to Alabama, Brunswick to, I think, Greenville, yeah. And you scroll into the load and see and all the details about it. Okay. And if you want to understand what certain things says, you just click the drop down arrow to get more information about that particular thing. Okay. So we X out of that. Does the driver have to have, yes, the driver has to meet all the credentials necessary to cross into a foreign country. Passports, getting cleared through, even in some cases you got to deal with the CBP, the border, Customs and Border Protection, because you're dealing with international commerce. You're transporting back and forth international. So there's several, but the broker, if you're going to get a driver going into and out of Canada and into and out of Mexico, the broker should, and I use that word loosely, should explain to you the process for that driver in order to get into and out of that country. Should, because it's their load. They got it from a shipper in Canada or a shipper in Mexico. So the shipper explained to them what the requirements are before they gave the load to the broker. So the broker should pass that information to the carrier so that the transaction and the shipment should go smoothly. Does that always happen? No. Your job as a dispatcher, though, if you deal with that, going into and out of foreign countries, you want to be extra careful to get as much information from the broker to make sure your carrier does it correctly. Now, if you're in the United States, it's a little bit more loose, but you're going to a foreign country. They can get, like in Canada, they can, the MPs, the mounted police, they're no joke. And then down in Mexico, they got the police down there, Policia. So be careful, right? So, but yeah, so getting the details of a load is good. Understanding how to do that is good. Understanding how to get the carriers, finding their loads according to their profile, what their cents per mile is, finding out if they do OTR, over the road. When you talk to a carrier for the first time trying to dispatch for them, you particularly want over the road carriers, because the more miles they drive, the more money they could potentially make, right? It makes sense. As opposed to a carrier wanting to be home every night. I want to be home every night. Well, you're not going to be driving a lot of miles if you want to be home every night. I can't make no money with you. You're not going to make no money. Or even regional, like tri-state area. 3 states. Like if you're in Virginia, go up to DC, Maryland, over to Tennessee or whatever, West Virginia. You might make some money, depends. Because some short runs pay a little bit more, like LTLs and stuff like that. So, but for the most part, OTR, the more miles you're running at the particular cents per mile, you're making the money across the miles, right? So depending on if you can squeeze the money out of the broker. Because right now, these days, they got the rates in the chokehold, right? So, okay. Any other questions, particularly for the newer students? I want to make sure I want to lose you guys, keep you guys engaged, if you will. I know you're here for the first time. You probably just want to navigate, get used to where things are before you start putting things, which is good. Navigate the website. If you have any questions, get used to where everything is located. Start working on your forms, your dispatcher agreement, which I'm scrolling down to under, this is module 1, by the way, where I'm going in. Right here, dispatcher packet. The dispatcher packet contains 3 documents, right? Darian.
Yeah, just real quick. I know there is a document on here that shows the brokers that work with new carriers or with new authorities, but I couldn't find that. Could you show me where I can locate that on this on the site?
Yes, sir. So I believe it's under forms and documents. Let's go to the main menu and let's look at forms and documents. And it's typically at the very bottom. Okay, right here. Under forms and documents, under module in the main menu, brokers who work with new authority carriers. So we got these PDFs, these Word documents, the brokers list, and popular drive-in, or all these right here, all these PDFs and Word documents right here. And then I got a screenshot of some of them too, some of the name of them. And how long, like you have to have an authority. Like right here, EPIs, number 3, 4 months. Your driver has to have an MC 4 months old, 2 months old, 90 days old, which is 3 months. Landstar open to new authorities, right? So you just look them up. And here's another list. The reason why I just put the names in there, because you can go to Safer and type their names up, and then they'll give you their information, their MC number, their phone number. You can just pretty much call and then inquire about your driver moving loads for them. Okay, here's another one. You can actually use that as well. Get the phone numbers off the names of them and things like that. Some of them are repeats. Some lists may have, like some of these may be on other lists, like Trinity, for example. They're pretty popular. Cardinal, C.H. Robinson, Allen Lund, Uber Freight. Of course, they work. Most of these new companies are startups as well, like Uber Freight. They've only been in existence since 2017. So they're going to be more than willing to work with new authorities because they're trying to grow themselves. So, but they're going to vet you just like they vet anybody, just like any broker. So, okay. But here's where it's located, under forms and documents, to answer your question. So, okay. Forms and documents is located in our back office under tools, resources, and docs, the first button. All right. Okay. All right. And then so each module for the new guys too, at the end of each module, and I'm digitizing this over time. Each module has a quiz and the answers to the quiz at the very bottom, right? At the end of the module. Before you can move on to this, I don't want to say before you can move on, but before you should move on. You got a quiz for that module and the answers to the quiz. I put the answers there. I didn't expect anybody to cheat, right? Open up the answers and take the quiz, but I want you to test your knowledge of what you went through in the module to kind of help me. Before you move on to the next one, you can move on to the next one. Module 1 complete. Click here to go to module 2. Okay. Click here, go to module 2. Module 2 is the load boards, where we give you access to our load boards. And I'm cleaning that up too, by the way. I'm gonna put some different load boards in here, but these are the ones we have so far. And then we actually talk about, you have a load board video. This is me with 123 load board, which is one of the top 3 load boards. This is the owner, Lauren Metzen, and his development team, where I had an interview with them, and he decided to open up 123 load board, where he gives dispatchers the ability to have a free 30-day affiliate link, and then after 30 days, you purchase your own subscription without having to have an MC. So that's big. So, and that's been going on for about a year now. We've had this, I think that was a year ago we had that talk. And we're supposed to have another one. So, and then we get into the body of load boards, what they are, how to navigate them, what are some of the features and the functionality of load boards. So you can master how to use a load board. There's certain advanced things about the load boards I haven't even shown you guys yet. certain, and it's very common, but I haven't shown you guys yet. I want you guys to get the basics of the load boards first before we even get into the advanced stuff. So once you get this stuff down, how to navigate it and find loads and stuff, then we'll get into that other stuff where you say, oh man, this is crazy, right? So that's module 2, okay? And at the end of that module, there's a module 2 quiz, the answers. Complete module 2, then go to module 3. Module 3 is basically how do you book the load? So you got a driver, first of all, you got your business set up, you got a driver, you got your paperwork in place, your dispatcher packet, which contains a dispatcher agreement, limited power of attorney, carrier profile. You found the driver, you found the load for them, you book the load, you found the load, you call the broker and start that process. What is the workflow in booking a load? And I give a demonstration of that, a dialogue between a broker or shipper and the dispatcher in verbal format right here, what the conversation goes like. ABC, I call myself ABC Trucking. That's the trucker, okay? And then the broker or shipper, what's your MC? This is standard stuff. This is what they ask all the time. When you first call, they're going to ask you for the MC of the person so they can look them up to see if they're already a part of their company, their brokerage, if they're already set up in their brokerage or not, right? That's what they're going to always do. When you call as a dispatcher representing your carrier, a broker to book a load for your carrier that you saw on the load board that you had searched for according to your carrier's profile, you're going to call the broker associated with that load that you saw, the phone number that was posted for that broker. And then you start the conversation, and here's the dialogue, all of this stuff here, right? And if you read through that, these are just examples, but you'll get the point as you read. So when you call a broker for real and for your carrier in real time, you'll be like, oh man, this is exactly what Charles was talking about. They always ask this question. They always say this. They always say that. So now you will be ahead of the curve and you would know what to expect and how to respond, right? Dialogue, right? And then we talk about carrier packets, which is what the broker sends to you, the dispatch service representing your carrier, when your carrier's MC number is not a part of that brokerage and you want to get set up with that brokerage in order to move loads for them, right? So your carrier has to be a part of every carrier has to be a part of a brokerage if they want to move loads for that broker. You cannot book a load for your carrier for any broker unless your carrier is approved as an approved carrier for that brokerage. Does that make sense? Okay. Because a brokerage is not going to give a load to anybody. They want somebody who's approved. They vetted them. They made sure they had an authority. They made sure they had the proper insurance coverage according to their customer, which is the shippers, right? And they made sure that they were a legitimate company with a W-9, with an EIN number. These are common things that the broker do to vet the carriers, to do what's called onboarding, to get them approved for their brokerage in order to give them loads so that they can make money and you can make money indirectly because you're doing it for them, okay? So, and then we repeat a lot of things too so that you know, you understand, you master it. Like the other documents, like you just asked, Jamal, what are the other documents? Remember the W-9, the MC, the certificate of insurance, and the notice of assignment. Repeat these things because as you dispatch over and over again, it's going to become clockwork and common sense. It's going to become common, repetitive, right? You're going to know it off like the back of your hand, right? But that's what it's supposed to do, right? Because dispatching is the same thing over and over again. The only thing that changes are the players. A different carrier, a different broker you're finding loads from. But the process is the same. Never changes. You may get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 carriers, different brokers, but you do the same process to book the loads. So the key to me as an instructor is, what is my key as an instructor? I need to get you to understand the process. I care less of the carriers and the brokers. If you get the process, then you got it. You see? So that's my job. I got to show you the process of how it's done and answer questions along the way. All right? Module 3 quiz and answers. Move on to module 4. Module 4 is easy. All it does is talks about invoicing. You know, after. And some of you guys may offer, now this may not work because if you're worried about whether the carrier is going to pay you or not for booking loads for them after they deliver, you can offer what's called credit card authorizations as part of your dispatcher setup. Send them a form, they fill it out. If they don't pay you, you're allowed to pull the money that's owed to you from their credit card. Most carriers are not going to do that. They're going, hell no, I'm not going to give you my credit card. What are you talking about? Are you on drugs? Right? So, but as a show of good faith, they may. But this just says, hey, man, just in case. And I can't take out more than what I'm owed according to this paperwork, because now I'm stealing from you and I can go to jail. Right? So, Miss Shayara, you got your hand raised.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
A little bit, yes.
Is that better?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Hi, so when you were saying earlier on the chat, I had noticed that when you, as a dispatcher, you call in the broker, you are representing yourself on behalf of the company. But when you need something sent to you, are you using your email? Are you setting up a alias email like abctruckingdispatch@gmail.com, or like how do, can you explain that?
Yes. So when you call so you're a dispatch service and you got your own email for your company and your carrier has their own email. You have the broker send let's say the onboarding packet, the carrier packet you can send it to your email because you don't have access to the carrier's email. They're not going to give it to you unless you work for them as a W-2 employee internally with their trucking company. They may give you access to a company email, but it's usually your email, your dispatch service email, Shayara's logistics at gmail.com or whatever the email may say, right? So you send it to your email. Okay?
Okay, and so the broker wouldn't, even though you're representing yourself as somebody for the trucking company, the broker won't say anything against that?
No, the broker can care less. You're providing the broker
Okay.
a service because you're providing them capacity. They can, in most cases, you may have some that slip through the cracks, be like, okay, why are you doing? Who cares? I'm giving you a truck, Mr. Broker. You need to move some freight for your customer. Who cares if you're sending me the carrier packet, whether it's sent to my email or to the carrier's email? Now, a way to get around that, and this is the best way. If you are fearful or worried about that, then just have the broker, just because you got the carrier's email because it's on your carrier profile and you got them under a dispatcher agreement, right? So just have the broker, just give them the carrier's email, and when they send it to the carrier, have the carrier forward to your email and then fill it out. Right? That's the way to circumvent that. If you fear that you're going to come across, if that energy, if that intuition is telling you that this is one of them brokers, right? Then just tell your carrier, hey man, I'm dealing with one of them crazy brokers. So I'm going to have them send it to your email. Once you get it, forward it to me and I'll go ahead and finish the process as if they would have sent it to my email directly. But we just to get around that nonsense. And then I may even send it back to you and you forward it to the broker, right? Just to get around it.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
Okay. But yeah, that's a great question because you do have brokers who think they are like the law, right? So, Jamal.
Yeah, so I have a question in that same vein. So one thing I heard you speak about on another occasion was that sometimes the broker wants to be he wants to be on the insurance as a certificate holder.
That's correct.
And so is this a conversation I need to have with the carrier? Like, hey, he might want to be a certified holder and we may have to go through the insurance people. So just make him aware that it may be a call that need to be made to the insurance company concerning that.
That's definitely a question you want to have with the carrier because it's the carrier's insurance that the broker wants to be listed on. So why wouldn't
Right.
the carrier be involved in that conversation from a dispatcher's perspective? You definitely want to.
Right.
So your job as a dispatcher, number one, is communication. You definitely
Yeah.
want to share everything that is transpiring in that conversation between you and that broker before the decision is made, because the carrier ultimately makes the decision. So they will tell you, yeah, that's fine. If they want that load and that load pays well enough, they can call their insurance agent and give them the heads up that they're going to be getting calls regularly from their dispatcher, you, about
Okay.
adding brokers to the insurance as certificate holders. That way, the agent is always updated. So when you call them, they already understand.
Okay, so my thing is, if they do that and they want their name put on that paperwork, would it be better for them to get it sent from the insurance company directly to the broker and just give me a CC copy or something, or how's
That's
that?
exactly what I advise. I advise. You just took the words right out of my mouth. So, 'cause I was going to go there on the certificate of insurance. Okay. Down here in box 7, this is just a sample, a blank sample of what one looks like, so you guys can recognize what it is when you see it. Okay. This is not actually a real one, but this is a template, just so you know. But down here in box 7, when you talk to a broker and the broker says, "Hey, we're going to book this load for you, but one of the requirements we ask is you list us, the broker, as a certificate holder on the carrier's insurance." So, and you get the okay from your carrier. So what you would do is call the agent on the policy and say, "Hey, I need a certificate of insurance for my carrier, who's one of your clients, listing the following as a certificate holder." Now, if the carrier hasn't had that conversation with the agent yet, the agent is going to ask you for the policy number to verify, number one, is one of their clients, because they're just, don't get mad, they're just doing their job, right? And then they may even put you on hold and actually call the phone number associated with the policy or the insured, which is the carrier, to verify that. Again, don't get mad, they're just doing their job, right? If you were in that situation, what would you do? The exact same thing. Can you imagine an insurance agent, how many calls they get every day? These are protections clauses that are in place, right? So they call and say, "Hey man, I got somebody on the other line asking to have a brokerage listed on your policy as a certificate holder." "Oh yeah, that's my dispatcher Jamal. Yeah, go ahead and do what he's my dispatcher. Go ahead and do what he's asking. And in the future, when he calls you, you have my permission, you have my okay." Right? And that kills it right there. Now, agent hangs up with the truck driver, clicks you back over off a hold and says, "Okay, who do you need to be listed?" They're going to ask you for the name of the brokerage, the street address, city, state, and zip. And they're going to ask you, who do I need to fax or email this to? You have them email it to or fax to the actual broker. And then, like you said, CC you in that chain, so you have a copy of it. Why? It looks more professional to a freight broker to receive a certificate of insurance with them on it, coming directly from the insurance company as opposed to coming from the dispatcher. Does that make sense? All right. Very good. All right. Anthony.
Hello. Quick question. Is it legal, I mean, or not? Can a carrier bypass its dispatcher and go to the broker?
Of course. Of course. That happens all the time. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome to transportation. But so, in other words, I think I understand what you're asking. So, if you have a dispatcher agreement, a contract between you and that carrier, right? And you're booking loads for that carrier over and over again, but then all of a sudden you start to notice that he or she is not using you anymore, right? He's bypassing you and finding his own loads, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with that. He found his own load. And I can see if you found the broker and then started the process of booking that specific load for him through that broker, and then he circumvent you and went to that same broker and said, "Let me just book it myself." Or he's booking his own load. He has you as a dispatcher, but he's booking his own loads that don't need you yet until maybe sometime he might get stuck somewhere. Then he call on you and say, "Hey man, I'm stuck. Can you find me a load?" So there's two different scenarios there.
But I was gonna say, like, but what about like in I would say a transaction when it comes to like you already have the contract, everything set up
Right.
for the transfer, can that person bypass you and go to the broker to like get like a bigger pay or?
Yes, he can, but that's a breach of contract because you're in the contract with him,
Okay.
right? You're in the contract with him, and then if it were me, I would obviously I'm no longer going to deal with that carrier because I know now they're being deceptive and this is
Yeah.
what
Okay.
their behavior. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting out of that. And because remember, in the dispatcher agreement, you can end this without cause after however you structure that dispatcher agreement, after a week, after 3 days, after 1 day. Let's go to the dispatcher agreement. How you can end it without cause. This is a contract, it's legally binding, right? Right here. So part of it, either party has the right to end this agreement without cause at any time within. Now, I just put 7 days notice by written or email request as a placeholder. Remember, this is a template. You can determine whatever. 1 day, 3 days, 2 weeks, whatever you decide, right? I just put 7 because that's standard, okay? You make that decision. If you fear you're going to run across that scenario a lot, then you decrease the time frame that you can get out of it. You understand? Yeah. So,
Yeah, I get it.
and
I
then
understand.
it says here, this is not an exclusive agreement or contract, meaning the carrier can work with multiple dispatchers. He can have you and another dispatcher, and he chooses the one that finds him the loads the best or the paying the most. Your job is to make sure that that's you, right? So you're not locking that carrier into only you. It's not an exclusive. It's non-exclusive. It's not an exclusive contract. Most carriers in their right mind will not lock into an exclusive contract with one dispatcher. Why? They're not putting their eggs in one basket. You see? Would you? Right? As a carrier. Correct. There you go. Let's use some common sense here, right? So I wouldn't do it. Yeah. So, but very, very good question, Anthony. Very good question. And I'm glad that everybody's hearing these questions and the responses because some of you may not want to ask the questions, but you hear the questions, you're benefiting from it. So you're getting the information. So, all right, are we good? Any other questions? We got 20 people here. I remember a time we had like 150, close to 200 people in here. I had to increase my volume of Zoom participants from 100 to 300. So, but this is fine. This is more intimate, smaller group. That's fine. Mr. Cox.
Hey, so I have two questions, right? So first question is pertaining to the load boards. Like what's a good number of load boards you recommend we should have just starting out? Is it 1, 2, 3,
That's a great
and
question.
what would they be? Which load boards would you recommend? Because I saw there's like 10 or so in the training.
Great question. So we have about 6 load boards that we share our access with you with. If you could handle 2 to 3, that'd be great. The top 3 load boards are Truck Stop. Used to be called Internet Truck Stop, but they changed their name. They bought out. 123 load board, and the versions of DAT, D-A-T. DAT stands for Dial a Truck, D-A-T. There's different versions of that. There's versions of the DAT load boards for the carrier side, and there's versions of the load boards for the broker side. And that's any load board in the major, well, not any, the major load boards. Like Truck Stop has a broker side, DAT has a broker side and the carrier side, Truck Stop has a broker side and the carrier side. And then 123 load board. So the top, if you get to a point where your budget can afford the top 3 as you progress in your journey, that would be great. That'll help you so much tremendously. I would take advantage of what we offer until you get to that position. That's the whole point of me providing load boards for you to they're like training wheels to get you started. You see? And then once you get acclimated to the using of the load boards and understanding how to navigate it and the user experience and the interface, then you decide which way you want to go. That's why I say tap into all the load boards and see which one provides the best user experience for you. Most people love DAT, but I find that Nextload, Direct Freight Services is just as good. But most people don't know that because they haven't heard of that because they're not one of the top 3. Just because you're not a top 3 load board doesn't mean you're not a good load board. That's a false narrative right there. What's your other question, Mr. Cox?
Well, before I get to the other question, right, sticking with the load board. So so I'm assuming, does all the owners of the load board have access to the same shippers, right? So essentially you can find the same load on the different load boards, correct?
That is correct. So if I'm a broker, so here's the logic behind that. If I'm a broker, would it not make sense for me? I get a load from a shipper. Would it not make sense for me? And I know the top load boards. Would it not make sense for me to increase my likelihood of getting a call from a carrier by posting loads on all the load boards out there? Right? That would make sense to me. So I got an account I'll have a broker account with Dad, Truck Stop, and I'll have an account with 123. And I put the same load from my customer on each of those load boards. Because remember, not all the carriers have accounts with all those load boards. They may have one here, or there. So by me putting my shipper's load on all the load boards, I'm increasing my likelihood for a carrier to call me. Because again, not all carriers have access to all the load boards, but I do. And my loads are posted on all of them. So I increase my chances. And this is coming from a broker's perspective, right? So that's the logic in that.
Okay. So my last question is, so what's the, in your opinion, what number of carriers is a good number to have when just starting out? Let's say, so when you get your first carrier, man, do you recommend, it's like one carrier, two carriers, or does it depend on, you backing into, okay, how much you want to make per week, per month?
Great question.
What's your
All
approach around?
these are very good questions. Great questions. And I preach it all the time. So here's how you determine the number of carriers one person can handle before they decide to scale their business and bring on other dispatchers under their company, like sub dispatchers. When you get to a point where you can no longer provide the same level of service for the one carrier as you can for the next one and the next one and the next one, the same level of service, whatever that number is, stop. If that's 3, if that's 4, if that's 5. So if you can't give the same level of service and commitment to the 5th carrier as you can to the 1st carrier, then decrease it to 4. If you can't do it to 4, then decrease it to 3 until you get to a point where you can provide a level playing field for all of your carriers as if there was only one carrier, the same level of service. So whatever that number is for one person, one dispatcher, you stop there and then you decide to scale your business by bringing on sub dispatchers under your company and continuing on. Give them 2 or 3 carriers, and then the next sub dispatcher give them 2 or 3 carriers, and then train them up to keep it moving, right? But that's how I justify scalability, by how much level of service I can give each carrier on the same playing field, right? Because I don't want to cheat my carriers. I want to give them the same level of service. That's a good dispatcher, right? So whatever that number is, and only you know that, Mr. Cox, and everyone else, only you know what that number is. It could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 5 that you're able to handle. Now, it gets easier, 3, 4, or 5, if they are of the same equipment type. Think about that. If they're all dry vans, if they're all flatbeds, or if they're all reefers, then it gets easy because you can just put them under the same loads, under the same brokers, and your job becomes easier. There's another technique. That's a strategy. Now, but if you're all mixed up, I got a reefer here, a flatbed there, and a dry van there, then you're all over the place, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying it's going to be a little bit more challenging for you than if they were all reefers or all dry vans or all flatbeds. You understand? Because now you're doing the broker a favor too, because you're giving them capacity. If it's the same broker, you're giving them 3, 4, or however many trucks you're dispatching for. And they're going to love you for that. And you can leverage that love by negotiating more rates, more money in the loads, because you're giving them, again, you're providing capacity to assets. You're giving them trucks. You're filling their loads for them, right? And they're going to, instead of you going on load boards now, they're going to be calling you, hey, man, is your truck empty? You got another truck available? Yeah, I can for another $200 on top of the rate. You know what I'm saying? So think about that too. Make your work smarter, right? Not harder. You got equipment types that are all the same. That may be a niche for you, depending on where you, again, remember I started the conversation with you, Mr. Cox, for a reason. Where you at, what trucks run, what are prevalent, where you at, what are the types of trucks. So you can focus only on dry vans and get about 3 dry vans, get under a good broker and run them. Reefers under a good broker and run them. Flatbeds under a good broker and run them. That may be your niche. So your niche is determined by where you're located, where you start, and the type of equipment type. You guys, you're starting to pick this up, right? Okay. This is the art and the science, right? It's just not just looking on load boards and finding loads. There's a technique to this. There's a process, there's a workflow. And again, my job is to help you find that and understand it and make it easier for you. Okay. All right. Someone Keith said would I need a laptop just for load boards by themselves? No, you don't have to have it by themselves. You can everything can be on one, like I had software on the laptop, load boards, everything on one centralized location. If you got enough space and capacity on that laptop to handle like hard drive space, RAM, software, you should be able to, one laptop should be able to serve you pretty well starting out. Okay, Keith? So, all right. One more question. Entertain one more question. Where the new people at though? I want to make sure that I'm new people and guests. I want to make sure you guys are good. You guys, you guys are probably like flies on the wall right now. You're listening, and this is being recorded. So, by the way, let me show you in the portal the recordings. The button with the yellow text says training videos library is where all the recordings will be when you want to go back and replay what we've been talking about, or any other videos. There's over 300 some videos back there. So, I mean, giving it to you, brothers and sisters. I'm giving it to you. So,
I have one last question.
yes, sir.
So again, right, as a new service, right, as a new service, I know in the training, you put a range as far as the rate per load you should be charging. I think you said around between 6% and 7% just starting out. But with the market being down, would you recommend going below there,
So
below like
the range,
5%?
right? The range, the major range I say is between 5 and 10, right? For the percentage side, and then the flat fee side, I say between $250 to $500 per week, depending on how many loads you book. If you are in the percentage option, and if you're new, I would say no more than 5 to 7%, with 7 being the middle ground, because 7 says that you're not brand new, but you're not an expert, right? So that's a fair starting amount. So even with the market being down, I would then stay within that 5 to 7% realm. So if you want to decrease from 7, 6, or 5, that's perfectly fine. I wouldn't go below 5 because now you're hustling backwards. Okay.
Is it common? Because I've seen other dispatchers, post when they post ads in the Facebook groups. Man, I see them, like they offer. They say, "Hey, first week is free." Is that common?
It's not common, but it's not bad. If it's a marketing thing to kind of get carriers to see and to prove to them that you know what you're doing. Say, hey man, in order to win your business, I can prove to you that I know what I'm doing. I give you the first load for free. And if you're satisfied with my service, we can sign this dispatcher agreement. If not, we can part ways and no hard feelings. If you are in a position where you're willing to do that, that's perfectly fine. That's just an extra value add because now you're giving them a free service just to prove to them that you're willing to work with them and that you know you're showing them that you know what you're doing. So nothing wrong with that. And you guys are all individual companies, so you can decide if you want to provide that initial service for free before you move on. Okay? Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it at all. Okay? Shayara.
Adding to the question that the gentleman just had, would you still have them fill out the paperwork So you can have what you need or the limited liability paperwork
Correct.
for
Yes.
that free service?
Correct. Even though you're doing it for free, you still want the contract because you still have to be under a contract, even though you're providing a free service. You're just not getting paid for that particular load. And if they decide not to work with you after that, you just end the contract right there. Because remember, in the dispatcher agreement, you can end this without cause after X amount of days or whatever, right? So yeah, you still want to have the technical paperwork in place. That way, if they do decide, now you ain't got to wait. If they decide to go with you after that free service, you don't have to waste that time sending them the contract. It's already in place. You've already filled it out. You've already sent it to them. You got it in place. You see?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
All right. Great questions, guys. Great questions. If you guys are in the area, in the Virginia area in January, the week, we have our week-long trainings every third week of each month. We didn't have it this month because of the holidays, Christmas, yada, yada, yada. So, have our week-long trainings. Me and my wife, you guys get to meet my wife. If you're in Virginia, in the southeastern part of Virginia, like the Norfolk area, Virginia Beach, January 15th through the 19th. From 9 a.m. to 12 noon, we are offering the week-long training on the dispatcher side, and then on the broker side, we're offering it the same week, same day from 1 to 4. Live in-person training, week-long training. And then we have activities after that, things like that. Take you guys bowling, beat up on you in bowling, beat up on you in different stuff. Take you in casinos, take your money from you. But we just family, intimate, real intimate. So we like to, meet and greet, things like that, training. So if you are a enrolled student in our ongoing training and you're in this area for one of our week-long trainings, it's free for you. You don't have to pay because you're already an enrolled student. But if you are not, if you know someone in the area, either going to be in Virginia or you live in the area, if you're going to be visiting family, even stop by the center and check us out. Our Exodus Logistics Learning Center, a 1,907 square foot facility. I may even take you by my warehouse, and I got a 25,000 square foot warehouse that I'm dealing with. So dealing with people and hiring and firing is a very stressful position to be in. Trust me on that. So, but you see the other aspects in transportation: warehousing, storage, distribution, transloading, cross-docking, fulfillment, e-commerce, putting up racks, vertical storage, scanning stuff in, WMS systems, warehouse management systems. Whew. Jeez. So, yes, I did, Jennifer. Yes. Got the warehouse. Yes, ma'am. We are, as a matter of fact, once we get it up to where we want, I will probably have a training one day in the middle of the floor in the warehouse so I can have the laptop there and just pan it around so you guys can actually see while we're training. So that'd be awesome too. So just kind of just trying to show you the evolution in transportation so that you guys can see and know, and actually literally, if you come visit us, you can literally touch, and get the experience and understand that you're a part of a network that's actually doing it, right? So, and I'm not implying that others are not. I'm just saying that I got the proof. So, but what we say, I got receipts. So yes. But that's how it is. All right. But I love to take my students along for the ride. So we've had students who've came in the course, did the testimonials. It's all on social media. The warehouses, take them out. I feed you to death. You're gonna gain some weight messing with me because every training, every day we went. My wife was like, wait a minute, you're not making no money. They spent for the training, but then we spending all this money on food. That make no sense. So my wife is my balance, right? She's my frugal budget person. So, but yes, I just want to make sure that I'm giving the students an experience that they're not going to forget. That's all. So, but I understand what she's trying to do. So I get it because we are a business, so we still got to maintain. But it's fun being in Virginia. Once it gets summertime, there'll be more activities. May have you guys come over to get some tickets to I don't know if you guys know Pharrell Williams from the Neptunes. Pharrell, he has this event over here every year. It's called Something in the Water. I don't know if you heard of that, but it's a real big event. All the big stars come, Jay-Z, Snoop, they come over on the beach. They got the stage set up and everything. It's like a weekend event. Very huge. I've never been down there except for one time, and I couldn't hardly park, so I left. That's how big it was. I just watched it on the news. So, but I probably reserved some hotels, which are going to be very expensive. But just the experience, you know, you only live once, right? So you want the experience and to be able to associate and network with like-minded people, not only on the transportation side, but actually, you know, I consider us family. You know, we're a network, we're family. I like sharing information with you. You call me anytime, so you basically might as well be family. You call my phone, I pick it up. There's no reason not to, right? I get called my phone. I missed like 17 calls already. So it is what it is. But but my main goal is to make sure that I give you value that you've taken your hard-earned money and sent to us because you decided we were the ones that you were to go with to get your training. I understand that. That is very humbling to me. So I respect that, right? So that's why I am the way I am. Very appreciative. Part of being appreciative is adding value to you guys. So that will always be my foundation, being humble and appreciative, because again, you could have taken your hard-earned money because times are hard out here. Money is scarce, right? So you decided to come with us. That's very appreciative. We thank you for that. And by showing our way of things, we give back. So that's how that works. That's karma. What you put out to the universe comes back to you. Okay? So, and I believe in family and networking and things like that. So if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Right? That's an old African proverb. I'm sure you heard that before. Right? So yeah. So these are universal concepts that we should live by. Right? So let me get off my soapbox. Preaching is usually on Sunday. I'll pass the collection plate around next week. So Keith said, what's the link to the beginning of the class again? The link to the so that's a great point, Keith, because you asked me that in an email too. So you're looking at the screen. So let's go to the top so right here, if you hover your mouse over Dispatcher 101, okay, the first option. So here, let me say this first. Don't click on Dispatcher 101 at the top header because it goes to the beginning page on Dispatcher 101. Hover your mouse over it until you see the drop down with all the other options. The first of which is live Zoom training calendar schedule. You click that, and that's where it takes you to our Zoom page, where it contains our times, our links, the calendar of the scheduled trainings and the days and things like that. So I can copy this link, put it in the chat so you guys can have that for yourselves. For those of you, but if you're in here, you did it the right way. So there's no point in putting it there, but I'll put it there anyway. Because this is a recording, other people may see it, okay? But this is our calendar for December. Every month I put the calendar out. This is the last month of 2023. So we are here the 13th. The next one will be Saturday at 12 noon. And then 2 weeks later, that Sunday, usually at 11, we will not have it because that's my birthday. I'll be 53. So we won't have it on that day, but we will have it on Wednesday, the 27th and the 30th of December. So it's still the same dates and times every second and fourth week of each month. Just so happened that Sunday we'll be off, okay? And then of course Christmas. And some of you may not be available because you may be spending time with your families and things like that. I'll still be available to have training, okay? So, all right. So hopefully that's what you were asking for, Keith. What's the link to the beginning of the class again? But there it is, okay? All right. All right, guys, we made it to another successful training. Hopefully you guys got some content that you need. What's up, Mr. Rufus? You chilling today? Is that good for you, Keith? You good?
Everything's fine, Charles.
All right, sir. All right. All right. Okay, guys. Keith, hopefully that link was good for you. Okay, he said thanks. Yes. Okay. All right, good. Just want to make sure you guys are good. Before I get off, I definitely want to make sure you guys are good. But of course, any questions, you guys know how to reach me. LaDonna puts my information in the chat all the time. So and say thank you to LaDonna too. She's she's been here throughout this journey with me. And oh, by the way, LaDonna, my wife and I, our Christmas gift to you is what I sent you, you keep. You understand what I'm saying, right? Right. So, oh my God, yeah. So what I sent you, you keep. Hey, hello, Sky. Yeah, LaDonna's been here, been with me since day one, since I did back in 2019, 2020. So yes. So yes. But thank you guys. I will see you, today's Wednesday. I will see you Saturday at 12 noon. And if anything changes, like if I have to cancel because I'm dealing with the warehouse or any other stuff, because I'm dealing with warehousing, I'm dealing with government, bidding on government contracts, things like that. I'm getting started on that. So I will put out, if you haven't joined our Facebook private group, members only, join that because we make announcements there. But I will also send out email if there's any changes in the live Zoom training. Okay, if I have to make a change. But if not, the next training will be Saturday. This Saturday at 12 noon Eastern. Okay. All righty. All right, guys. Enjoy your evening. Salute.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
By the way.
How about those boys?
Oh, hello.
How about them boys, man? How about them boys?
Let me get off of here, man. Y'all playing games.